Welcome to Come Learn Forex. In this video, we will be having a look at currency pair calculations in the Forex market. Please read the following disclaimer carefully by pausing the video before moving on. So let's get straight to it. In one of our previous videos, we have gone over what pips are and why they are important. Let's look at what are the steps to calculating pips. Step 1 is to determine the currency pair. In the following example, we will be looking at the pair GBP-USD. Step 2 is to determine the volume traded. In one of our previous videos, we have gone over lot sizes, which is also known as volume. As a quick reminder, one standard lot equals 10 of the quote currency, in this case USD, per pip of price movement in either direction. We will use this as our volume for the current example. Step 3 is to determine the opening price of the trade. Let's say in this example, we have bought or gone long at 1.32. Step 4 is to determine the closing price of the trade. Let's say in this example, we have sold back what we initially bought at a higher price of 1.33. Step 5 is to do the calculation. We would subtract the opening price from the closing price, which equals 0.01, which is 1,000 points, and as 1 pip is equal to 10 points. In this scenario, this means that we have theoretically made profit of 100 pips. Let's look at how to calculate our profits. Step 1 and 2 stem from step 1 in our previous example. There, we had to determine the currency pair. Now, let's break that down. Step 1 is to determine the base currency, and step 2 is to determine the quote currency. Now that we have determined them, which is our base and which is our quote, we need to look at the opening price of our trade. In this case, that was 1.32, continuing back from our previous example. Step 4 is to again determine the volume. Our volume was one standard lot, which again equals to 10 of the quote currency, which in this case is USD. Step 5 is to determine the closing price, which in this case was 1.33. Step 6 is the calculation itself. We first need to calculate how many pips we have gained. In this case, subtracting 132 from 133, we get 100 pips. Now here is where it gets a little bit different. We need to then multiply the amount of pips, in this case 100, with our volume and times that by 10. 100 times 1 is 100, and 100 times 10 is 1000. This would mean that in this case, we have made 1,000 of the quote currency, or 1,000 USD. Now to calculate that back in our base currency, all we have to do is divide what we had by the current rate, which in this example would have been 133. So 1,000 divided by 133 will give us approximately 751 GBP. This is exactly why for every currency pair, pips will have different value, so it is important to know why and how this makes a difference. Moving on, let's do a practice exercise, as I've just mentioned, it is very important to get a very good grasp of that concept. Let's calculate the parameters we set for the following GBP-USD setup. For the purpose of this example, our volume or lot size will be equal to 2.5. Feel free to pause the video and do your calculations before we move on to discussing the results of this practice exercise. So let's get on to it. We would first want to calculate our risk, as this is what should always be done first and foremost. In case we would lose this setup, we will be losing 100 points or 10 pips. 10 pips at 2.5 lots would be equal to 250 USD. This in GBP would be in turn the value divided by the exchange rate, which would give us 182 GBP. However, on the other hand, in case we were to have profited from this setup, which we ended up doing, we would have gained 100 pips. 100 pips on GBP USD with 2.5 lots of volume would mean that we would have gained 100 times 2.5 times 10. That's 2,500 USD. This in GBP would be approximately 1,804, as we would divide the 2,500 USD to the current rate, which in that case would have been 1.38626, and the result is our profit in the base currency. If you have enjoyed this Forex related content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our Come Learn Forex channel. Also comment below on what other topics you would like to see covered next.